guanxi, and from the guanxi you can have the return on it, And the guanxi exchange is if you use the guanxi, sometimes you need to pay it back. So it's a multi-dimensional concept. In order to best, can I ask for 2 more minutes? I know it's time is flying. So yeah, it's in order to best represent this guanxi concept. So under this framework, we tried to build up a composite index that can quantitatively represent what is guanxi. So this we select 23 variables which come from that four aspect of the dimensions, each dimension of guanxi, and use the principal component analysis and factor analysis to get the 4 sub-index, and from that 4 sub-index we make up our final composite guanxi index. And okay, we found that there's 4 sub-index. First one, it's with close relationship with party membership, job position, and the work unit type. That represented the social status. And the second sub-index is the gift, with a strong relationship with gift expenditure and expenditure of communication and transport as part of the maintenance aspects, dynamic aspect. And the third sub-index is dining out and entertainment expenditure. That's part of the maintenance and investment as well. And the third sub-index mainly is siblings, it's blood status. Okay, so from these things, we run an income determination equation. So it's techniques that economists use, and we control, apart from guanxi, we control the family characteristics, human capital, and assets. And our findings is that the guanxi is nearly as important as return on education. 1% increase of guanxi will cost 5%, nearly 6% increase of the household income. And the return on guanxi has the feature that in rural is more important than in urban, and in the high income groups is more important than low quantities. Based on this income, we did the inequality composition, which tells us what? It tells us that in the contribution of the inequality, you see guanxi is more important than asset, than the contribution of the unequal distribution of asset in the inequality. And in the high quantiles, it's even more important than human capital and the family characteristics becomes the largest one. And so the higher the quantiles, the more the guanxi will contribute to the inequalities, which come to our policy situation last 1 minute. We know that inequality is serious, but it's a taxation tool which is used currently, an effective tool as the policy tool to relieve the inequality. I also know why this. We calculated the household income Gini before and after tax, after income tax in China. The income tax burden is very heavy for me, and my tax burden is around 30%. That's very high. But if we look at the before and after tax Gini, it's nearly unchanged. So we have to say that current taxation tool is not effective. So how to do that? We find education is important. So investing in education must be something that the government needs to do. That is through the payment transfer. That's the short run target. But in long run, find guanxi play important role. But we cannot ask the government to invest in or to do payment transfer in each household to increase their guanxi. Well, the guanxi is not a good idea if in a normal society. So in the long run, we guess that the policy needs to reform on institutional settings, to increase social justice, so that guanxi will no longer play that important role that will bring in us a more equal society. Thank you very much, and sorry for.
Thank you, Jiannan. I really think that Jiannan has brought something. He has encapsulated, I would say, the discussions we have had in this panel. No? I really think that our main issue is still our definition of a society, or home is part of our society, And the approach we have, and I think this is also part of the neoliberal burden we carry on our backs, has to do with an approach to humanity as atomized and individuals who have no relations. And this idea of interpersonal spending is very interesting because it talks about a different sociality. It talks about reciprocity, it talks about hospitality, it talks about mutuality, intergenerational relations, and I really think that beyond surviving, we are talking about why the vast majority of our fellow citizens, they don't have the right to live. They don't have the right to live among valuable human beings, and I really think that the different presentations today, they talked about lack of territorial rights, insecurity, that leads to diaspora. Some of you talked about being foreigners everywhere in your country, in a neighbor country, in your city, displacements, dislocation. And so it's a kind of an internal scramble process that we have seen also. So we replicate inside our own borders a process that we criticize when looking elsewhere, when looking abroad. So we are talking about life, maybe. Now we are talking about dispensable lives, as I said before, inspired by Elaine. So disposable bodies, dispensable lives. And when Elena was talking about care, and how Nita is concerned about care, I was really thinking on her and how a person who has been violated along her own life, he still thinks about care. So I was thinking about us. So what can we do about it? How can we care about it? And for me, the best lesson from this panel today has to do with the real possibility of interdisciplinary dialogue. It's really amazing. I know it's part of ANPOCS in its tradition, but in the last few days we have shown that we are facing a challenge, but we have the real possibility of a productive dialogue. So I will open to the floor because I really think you have questions. And I just ask you to be short, briefly, because we have another panel and we will have a closing session in the afternoon.
Bom dia, Mônica Martins, da Universidade Estadual do Ceará. Well, my question is for the whole table. Is the problem of development with social justice and income distribution much more concerning the rich than the poor? So, what do you think about public policies to reduce richness and alleviate richness, not poverty? The poor people are not the problems. The real problem that we face to develop our nations are the rich.
Okay, so very interesting panel. Just I will address part that is very, very good overlook, but I have a disagreement with 2 points. The first one, as you can imagine, is about the from acronyms to an alliance. I will try to demonstrate you why I think it is not an alliance at all. If we look at the relations among the 5 countries, we will look that in all of them there are sectors of their societies and parts of their elites that would like that the group become a bloc, an alliance. but those are not prevailing. These elites are not prevailing. So the only alliance I can clearly see among the BRICS is between China and South Africa. In this case, it prevails in both countries the idea of alliance. Okay, but for example, if we look at the relationship between Brazil and China, the whole industrial sector and the unions related consider China as a major rival, okay, not an ally. On the other side, the agribusiness sector and the commodity, the iron ore producer perceived as an alliance. Okay, if we look at the relationship between China and India, there is a lot of common interest in interdependence, economic interdependence, but the geopolitical rivalry is very strong, continues being very strong. Okay, if we look at the relationship between China and Russia, there are a lot of geopolitical tensions. In the mindset of the Russian elite, it's very dangerous the fact that Siberia is very empty territory and China has a lot of people already colonizing Siberia, let's say. Okay, so for that reason, major agreements in energy has been difficult between China. The potential interdependence is huge. I mean, theoretically, the major provider of oil and gas, of energy, to China should be Russia, not the Middle East, but this is not what happened. Why? Because the geopolitical rivalry. Even between India and Russia, in which historically there was an alliance, this alliance is today eroded somehow because of the rapprochement between India and United States. So there is not, for many reasons, there is no alliance. This doesn't imply that the countries are rising, all of them are much more important in the world scenery than 20 years ago, for sure, okay? But and there are sectors of their country wanted an alliance, but this sector doesn't prevail, and all the potentials in the mid-term or short-term future are not for prevailing. So the alliance is restricted to demanding more quotas more power in the International Monetary Fund, more power in the